You're going to hear this a lot. Franchises are based on the average. The average person doing the average day's work, right? Average across the board, they're producing average results. That is typically a single unit operator, okay? That is fine. That hits the goals for most people. But if you want to think about being to have more, you can do that. But it's not about which franchise is going to allow you. The money follows the fit. So you always have to make sure what you're getting out of bed to do every day is really what you want to get out of bed to do every day. Otherwise, know how many territories you have and what a great deal you got on these territories and how amazing the territories are. If it doesn't fit what you want to do, it's going to be a miserable experience for you. Okay? So money follows the fit. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of Fran Coach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of Fran Coach and your podcast host. Today, just little old me, and we are going to talk about what it means to be a multi-unit franchise owner. How does it work if you do this? What are some of the advantages of it? When you should do it, when you should not, and most importantly, some things to be aware of if you're talking to anyone in the franchising industry that is trying to push you into this, how to know those signs as well. That's what we're going to jump into today, is kind of all the things of scalability, how multi-unit franchise ownership works. That is coming up here in a second. Fran Coach is the premier franchise consulting firm. Our number one goal is to properly educate you on franchise ownership to determine if you should own one. And if so, we're going to help you find your absolute best fit. Our educational approach ensures we focus on the client's best interest. We are not here to sell you a franchise. In fact, we don't sell anything. Finding the best franchise to own is an incredibly personalized and individualized process that can only work with a team of experts focused on what is truly most important. That's you. Fran Coach, our services are always 100% free to use, so reach out to our team. Click the QR code or find us at francoach.net. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, folks, we are back on the Franchising 101 podcast, and we're talking about what does it mean to be a multi-unit franchise owner, and kind of all the things that go along with this. So, first of all, very simply, multi-unit means you own more than one unit, location, territory, whatever it might be of a particular franchise. So, does this happen? Yeah, it happens quite often. I would tell you the majority of people are not multi-units across 4,000 plus franchises out there. One of the things when you think of why people become a franchise owner is always control, freedom, flexibility, their time, but don't think money doesn't factor in there some way. You work in the corporate world, eventually your head's going to start hitting the proverbial glass ceiling on advancement and how much money you can make. The more money you make, usually the more expendable you become from that position. As a franchise owner, there is no ceiling. If you have one unit of a franchise, and for most people, this is how it works, one unit is going to hit all of their goals. Time they're spending, what they're doing, when they're doing it, with whom, and how much money they are making along the way. Not to mention the equity and wealth that you're building, because eventually you're going to sell this sucker, right? One unit hits those goals for people, fan-stinking-tastic. What if your goals financially are a little bit higher? People will often come to us and go like, look, hey, I want to make this amount of money. Which franchise should I own? And our answer will more than likely annoy them when I'm going to say any of them. Why? Because the money follows the fit. When you find the franchise that is your fit, the money will follow. Will that be one unit of it, or will it be multiple of them? Okay. So today we're talking about multi-units. So how does this work? So one kind of misconception right off the bat is, let's say I want to do three units, three territories, three locations of a particular franchise. And so I'm going to do a food franchise. I want three of these suckers. Great. Does that mean I have to open them all at the same time? Absolutely, positively not. And in almost every single case, that's not how it works. You're going to get a development timeline. You have X number of months to get the first unit open and operating. Then you're on the clock for the second unit, then for the third. So again, and the variance with this is like everything in franchising is really, really wide. So you may have a situation where it's, hey, you've got 12 months to get the first one open, 9 months to get the second after that, and then 9 months after that. Okay, cool. So you've got to be able to keep working while you're growing that first one to also now finding the location for the second one, starting to build out all of those things to get there, then the third and so forth. Okay. If it is a non-retail, still pretty much the same thing. So if I'm going to own a painting franchise and I don't want one territory, I want 3. Okay. So could I open up and start marketing and operating in all 3 of those right away? Yes, and you can do that easier, certainly by far easier than you can do it from a brick and mortar standpoint. But you still want to be really careful because that is going to be a lot of turf and a lot of money spent on marketing and a lot of people going all over the place versus trying to stay a little bit more consolidated in that first territory. So similar to the brick and mortar, you're going to have a development timeline. Hey, you've got, again, maybe it's 9 months. You got 6 months to get the first one open. 9 months after that, we should be opening the second one. Another 9 months after that, something like that, right? So it gives you that time to be able to, again, focus on the first one, get it up and running, start getting the hang of what the heck is going on, and then be ready to launch the next one, okay? What are some benefits of this? Well, if you commit to, let's say, 3 units of a franchise upfront at the beginning when you sign the franchise agreement, in most cases, the franchise fee for the additional units for number 2, number 3, in this scenario, you could be doing a 10-unit deal. The franchise fee for the additional units is usually reduced somewhat. So there's a little bit of an incentive for you to gobble up that turf, okay? Even if you're not going to be operating, and again, in most cases, you won't be operating in number 2, number 3, et cetera, right off the bat, it means it's locked those locations or those territories in for you so nobody else can own it, okay? You know that is going to be your empire that you are building there. So to do that at the beginning, and again, in most cases, it does usually reduce the franchise fee. It's not a bunch, but if it's $5,000 or $10,000 off the second one, I don't know about you, but I'd rather have the $10,000 in my pocket than give it to somebody else. Okay. So that's one initial advantage, is a little bit of reduction on the franchise fee. It is locking in the turf so nobody else can own anything around. It's kind of your moat around you. Then you're going to hear the phrase a lot in this, economies of scale. So I love these fancy business terms, but what the heck does that really mean? Well, what that's going to mean is once you have the second unit open, you're going to have to spend, especially if it's brick and mortar, if your first location required 2,000 square feet, guess what? Number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, they're all going to require that same space. You've got to build that out. You're going to need the tables and chairs and the register and the food and all of the things in there for sure, right? But now once the business is running, you've got the ability to share stuff, share staff, okay? So years ago, my wife and I, we owned fitness studios. We owned 2 different ones. They were maybe about 10 miles apart. So what did this allow us to do, mainly from a staff perspective, from the fitness equipment's already in there, so it's not like that's going to go back and forth. But what it allowed us to do is share staff. So we would have some staff that might live way to the opposite side of one of the franchise locations. Well, they might only work at that one, but there was a good bit of turf in between both of those locations. And we had a handful of folks that are like, they were open working at both places. Okay. So it did a couple things. It allowed us to hire people to give them more hours right off the bat, which more hours is usually more attractive to folks that are coming in to work these jobs or teach these classes. So it allowed them to go back and forth between the 2 locations because it was pretty much the same commute. Okay. It also allowed us, if all of a sudden we needed a backup from a standpoint of, hey, Sally called in sick over here at location number 2. Oh man, if I only had that one location, I may not have enough of a bench to fill in here. But now I'm pulling from a whole nother location, being able to do that. If it's something food related, and again, was that a years ago? Was that a was that a Subway as a customer? And here comes somebody with their Subway uniform running in from the neighboring location that was owned by the same person, because they'd ran out of cups, and she runs in, she grabs a big sleeve of the cups, takes off, and runs back to the other location. So some of the shared resources that you can have back and forth. So it allows you to sometimes keep your cost, kind of lower the cost, because you are spreading it out across multiple locations or multiple territories. Same thing from a marketing standpoint. If 3 different people own 3 different neighboring territories, they're all going to be kind of spending the same, $5,000 a month on marketing at each place. If now I own all 3 of those, I don't have to spend as much, because I know I don't really care which location the customers go to or call in, because I own them all, right? And so you've got that. So again, you understand some of the components of this that allows you to build really a bigger business long term. What about down the road, right? And so if you start with 3, or let's say you just start with 1, and that, I can never stress enough to people that is okay, that you can start with just 1. But let's say now you want to grow, okay? Is that still possible? Well, yes, if it's still available, right? There is absolutely no guarantee. If I start with 1 territory or 1 location, and that's all I want to do, or maybe that's all I can do at the beginning, there's no guarantee that 18 months from now, everything around me that was open 18 months ago is still open. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe somebody else has already come in. So I run the risk of it just flat not being available. Okay, that's possible. Can you have, and again, I wouldn't say this for number 2, but could you expand outside that particular region, another side of the city, another part of the state, another state, whatever? As you grow really big, you'll see some of the massive multi-unit franchise owners that is how they've built an empire. They're in multiple cities, states, regions, whatever that might be, because they've got it all figured out. You don't want to go too crazy with that right off the bat, right? But you can add that in. You just don't know if it's going to be available. If you're adding, you start with 1 and you want to add that in later, that slight reduction of the franchise fee is really probably not going to be there. People sometimes will say at the beginning, like, well, if I do 1, I just want to do 1 now, but these other 3, I'd really like to do eventually. I just want to start with 1. Can you hold them for me? Can you give me a right of first refusal? And sometimes brand new brands will do this, and then I guarantee you every time they do it, they regret it later on. The franchise is not going to do that. So why is that? Do they not like you? No, you might suck. And then all of a sudden, you're now sitting on the ability to expand to these other locations, and they don't really want you to expand because you weren't all that good with the first one. So it really is overall protecting the brand to make sure you're not sitting on, or you're operating it, but you're operating it below average because it's just not really paying any attention to it. Okay. So they're not going to just hold it, no matter how awesome you are, no matter how much they love you, no matter how sure you are you're going to be amazing, that it just is not going to happen. Okay. Or incredibly rare when it does. So you need to, if that's something you want to do, you've got to be able to do that right off the bat. Always, I want to come back to the money follows the fit. So in most cases, franchises are based on, you're going to hear this a lot. Franchises are based on the average person doing the average day's work, right? Average across the board. They're producing average results. That is typically a single unit operator. Okay. That is fine. That hits the goals for most people. But if you want to think about being to have more, you can do that. But it's not about which franchise is going to allow you. The money follows the fit. So you always have to make sure what you're getting out of bed to do every day is really what you want to get out of bed to do every day. Otherwise, know how many territories you have and what a great deal you got on these territories and how amazing the territories are. If it doesn't fit what you want to do, it's going to be a miserable experience for you. Okay. So money follows the fit. So keep those things in mind. But I think not one of the coolest and best experience of any franchise conference I've ever been is called the multi-unit franchise conference. It is all about multi-unit franchise owners. Okay. Why is this? And it is by far the best one I've been around from the amount of positivity, the highly successful people that you are around, multi-unit franchise owners. Every other conference in franchising is no different than every other conference in the corporate world. It is filled primarily by people who are employees. Employees are never ever happier than business owners. But it's been cool to see over the last couple of years and be there and get to have numerous conversations with people that own a couple, a half dozen, a dozen, 20, 50, 100, like several hundred units, sometimes even multi-brand, which is a whole nother thing, that there's no ceiling. They found their fit. They keep growing. They keep expanding. We talked recently about resales and how most of those resales get gobbled up internally. This is how. It's another way to kind of expand your portfolio as a multi-unit franchise owner. Okay. Now, what should you be aware of? Are there, and sadly, even people who kind of technically do what we do at Fran Coach, again, minus that pesky word ethics, and are there some franchisors that are also a little shy of the E word and they're going to be really pushy on you? If you are ever talking to anybody in franchising that it feels like you are being forced, pushed, coerced, borderline threatened, told how amazing it is, you can't possibly pass this opportunity up, you have no idea what you're doing, you got to do 3, you got to do 5, you got to do this, you got to do that. You ain't got to do squat, folks, right? So if you get this, trust your gut in that situation. If you're getting that feeling from anybody you are talking to in the franchising world, at the minimum, pause, if not, take off running in the other direction, okay? The threat piece, I don't know if it's going to be available. Okay, like, is that going to kill you? If you start with one and you want more and then it ends up that nothing is available around you, is that the end of the world? It's not, right? Like, you still want to be able to expand and grow. Well, doesn't mean you can't look to expand with that brand somewhere else or become a multi-brand owner. Start stacking them on top of one another, staying in your territory and just building a different way. So don't let somebody tell you like, oh, it may not be available. I got, or the used car sales bit. I got somebody else that's also looking at this, so you better hurry up. You feel like that, be very, very cautious. And there are some people out there that will do that. The other thing to keep a close eye on in that situation, especially if you're feeling you are forced, whoever you're talking to with that franchise, look at their email address. Is it at the name of the franchise or is it at something else? Okay. Why is that important? If they're at the name of that franchise, they are an employee typically of that franchise. Ask people, do you work for the franchise or do you work for somebody else? If they work from the franchise, doesn't mean they can't still be pushy, but they are more likely to be focused on overall growth of the business. The way franchisors succeed is royalties. You being successful and making money and being happy, they're happy. Okay. If they're trying to get it up front, they're not looking at the right things. Okay. Can it be an employee of a franchisor that is doing that is pushing you to expand and don't do 1, do 3, don't do 3, do 5, right? You sure 5's enough? What about 7? You better hurry up. There's somebody else looking at this. But usually it's going to be they don't have an email at that franchisor. They are a third party, what's called a franchise sales organization. Be very careful with them. The second word in what they are called is telling you everything you need to know. Franchise sales organization. They are trying to sell you. They do not care how you do. They do not work for the brand. Okay. Are all franchise sales organizations bad? No. Are some of the worst things in franchising based in franchise sales organizations? You bet your ass. So be careful. Trust your gut. It is okay. I can never stress this enough. It is okay to start with one. Okay. The money follows the fit. It's okay if you start with one and then 2 years from now, you wish to expand and there's no place to expand. There's no place to expand for that brand. Every franchise system is not sold out in your area. Okay. There will be other things that you can grow and expand into. Maybe complementary, maybe not, right? That's the beauty of this. There's no ceiling. It's whatever you want. You're in control. So if you feel queasy about it, hurry up and call me and I'll help you through it at that point. But there's, again, the no ceiling piece is amazing opportunities with being a multi-unit franchise owner. You don't have to open them right away. In fact, rarely should that ever be a case, even in a non-brick and mortar where it's territory based. You don't want to get spread too thin with your market. You want to be more hyper-focused. If nothing else, your marketing dollars and where your people are going. Start it small and then grow into it. So you don't have to open them all at the same time. Whether retail or non, you're going to have a timeline for which to do it. It usually reduces your franchise fee a little bit at the beginning if you do multiples when you sign. And then one of the biggest things is that economies of scale, shared staff, shared stuff, giving your staff more hours, more flexibility with their hours, spread your dollars out for the stuff and the marketing, because it's all going to the same ultimate bottom line with this. And again, grow it, build it to whatever you want. So, and just really the multi-unit thing's kind of been on my mind because we were just at that conference, I don't know, in March. So many amazing stories, successful, wildly successful people that have built multi-million-dollar empires as franchise owners. And sometimes with franchises that are low-level investments and they've been able to build, it's not all the big, massive food franchise owners that do that. It is the everyday businesses ran by everyday people that are able to do just that. That's a little bit about multi-unit, how it works, is it for you, and what the heck to watch out for. So hopefully, as always, this stuff helps you get a better understanding of the amazing world of franchising. So until next week, I'm Tim Parmeter. This is the Franchising 101 podcast. Hey, thanks again for tuning into the Franchising 101 podcast brought to you by Fran Coach. I hope these episodes continue to educate you on the amazing possibilities that can be achieved through franchise ownership. In between podcast episodes, if you still want to learn more about franchising and the ways in which Fran Coach can help, there are a few places for you to check out. First, tune in to the Franchising 360 show. It is the only nationally syndicated television show about franchising hosted by me and Danielle Wright. Our TV show airs every Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on Biz TV. Next, check out the Fran Coach YouTube channel, which is Fran Coach for You. You can find tons of franchise-specific content there. Plus, you can catch past episodes of the Franchising 360 show. If you like to read, we encourage you to check out our book, Becoming a Franchise Owner. You'll never guess what it's about. And finally, when you're ready to take that first personalized step and explore the franchise industry further, please reach out to our amazing team at Fran Coach. You can click the QR code or find us at francoach.net. There is never any fee for our service, so let us help you create your better tomorrow.